What's up guys, it's your man, I Do a Barber, back with another haircut tutorial, and in this one we're going to do a full length tutorial on how to cut with the detachable blades from start to finish. First step, I'm going to start with my adjustables, creating my first ball line. We're doing a mid-ball fade, so I'm closing the lever and I'm slightly opening it to create a line of demarcation around the head for the mid-ball fade. I don't go all the way around the head. I like to start on one side and then do the other and match it. What happens is sometimes it doesn't come out even, and that happens, and it's easy to fix once that happens, just to make it even. But as you see, there's my line. Now I'll take my 5-0 blade on my detachables and bald out this area. And guys, you want to try and use some detachables to remove bulk. It makes your job a lot easier than just using your trimmers. As you can see here, his hair is coming off like butter from using the detachable blades. My 5-0 blade, if you're curious, it's 0 gapped, which means it just cuts a little bit closer. And if you're curious on how to 0 gap detachables, it's very simple. You just loosen these 2 screws here, push the cutting blade to the top, and then tighten it. The same way you 0 gap your trimmers or your adjustable clippers. It's no different. As you see, I was able to remove that bulk really fast with detachables. Very fast. So next step, I'm going to take my Braun Series 7 shaver and clear out this bald area. And just to let you guys know, I'm not going all the way up to the line. I am leaving some stubble before I get to that line, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my trimmers to lighten up that little line of demarcation created by the shavers. Now, some people would say flick out at the top or come down with the shaver on the line to lighten it. Me personally, I don't do that just to save myself time. If you watch my video about setting up your tools properly, you will see in that video that I said that all of your tools should work in order. And that's exactly how my tools are set up. My 5-0 works into my trimmers, and my shaver works into my trimmers. So they all work together. So it's shaver, either 5-0 or trimmers, and they all work into each other to my adjustables. So as you see, I'm just getting every nook and cranny here. And this is full length, guys. Like, you're seeing everything that I do from start to finish on this fade. So there won't be any editing of clips. You get to see me do this cut real time. And just to see how to use a detachable blade, the manner in which I'm using them, you get to see all of that in this video. So now once you take everything down with the shaver, you'll notice any long hairs. So that's all I'm doing now, is I'm just coming in here and hitting any of the long hairs. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to lighten up that little line that I told you about that I left with the shaver. I'm just taking my trimmers and I'm just going around in a circle lightening this area. Because in theory, what should happen now is I shouldn't have to come back and hit this with a shaver or my trimmers anymore, because I just cleared out this section and it should be able to flow right into my trimmers. So next step, we're gonna reduce the weight on the top. He wants to do a 2 on top, so I'm taking my 3.5 detachable blade and I'm gonna use the 3.5 through this section right here, and I'll use a 2 through here. Mainly because his hair is a little bit thinner through here versus here, so I'm leaving the hair here a little bit darker to match the hair back here. I'm doing my best to try and create the illusion that his hair is all one length. And that's what I'm doing. And as you can see, that little section there, that's where I'm gonna stop with the 3.5. And then the rest of that section, I'm gonna continue with the 2 blade. All right, and there you have it. So now there's still a little shelf right here. You can probably see that. I'm just gonna come cross grain and blend that in. Now this is something you can do with straight hair, and it works just fine. Just coming across the grain, just taking off a little bit. And there you have it. So that's now blended in. So now we can start getting into the fade. So as you can see, he has this big bulk of hair through that section. We got to remove that bulk now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 1.5 and clear out that bulk there, just so I can have a neat canvas and a clean canvas to fade. Because when you're fading in any system, whether you use detachables or guards, you don't want to fade into bulky hair because you really want to see what you're doing. So I'm just going to take my 1.5, remove this bulk, and again, this is why I love detachable blades. You see that hair is coming off like butter. You see that, right guys? Like this hair is coming off like butter. You don't get this with adjustables. The hair just doesn't come off like that when you use adjustables. So essentially 3.5, 2 through the parietal ridge is about a 1.5. Again, you can see that I took the 1.5 through here. I'm still gonna run the 2 through there because I may not have went back all the way with the 2. So I'm just gonna take the 2 and come back through the crown and the apex right here, just to make sure that hair is nice and clean. Now that we can get into the fading, seeing how all of the bulk is removed. This step, we're going to use the OA blade. You can see that there. And we're going to create a 1-inch guideline all the way around his head. Now, you want to make this a good 1 inch because with blending, you want to really spread out your blends. As you can see, I went around one time and then I went around another, just to make sure that hair is nice and clean. You can see that guideline, a good 1 inch. because you need room to fade. That's one thing you need. You need to make sure you have room to fade. So the next step, what I'm going to do is, now that I put that line in, I'm going to remove this line. So now I'm taking my 000 blade, and I'm going to use the corners a lot through here to remove this line. And just to show you guys something, this particular blade, one side is a little shorter and the other side's a little bit closer. So as you see me do this, you'll see me using a lot of the corners. That's because this side is lower and this side's a little higher, which means it's gonna cut shorter and this side's gonna cut longer. And that's gonna help me remove this line. So I'm coming in at an angle, and I'm just gonna come around here. I'm gonna do one pass and try and get all of this hair in here removed. And just take note as I do this. As you can see the line, as I spun his head, you can see the line and how much of that line is gone now. You can see that that line has lightened up quite a bit. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go up even higher into this line and just attack any spots that I see here. Using the corners, it's very delicate. I'm just attacking certain parts of the blend through there. Being really cautious. He has certain areas back here that's darker than others, and I'm just attacking those areas. As you can see, I'm going up a little bit higher into this area because I see little details, little key details that need my attention, and that's all I'm using. And I'm just making sure that I'm using the corner, guys. Remember, I'm using the corner. And I'm using the corner of the side that's a little lower. Now I'm going to use the side, and you can probably see this. Like, look at this blade. You can see how that ceramic blade on the left side is a lot darker, has a lot of hair in it. That's because that's what I was using. So proof is in the pudding as you see this blade. Now I'm going to use this side of the blade to really lighten a lot of this through here. And again, a lot of the corners. A lot of the corners through here. Because for the most part, everything is done. I don't have to do anything crazy. All of the hard work has been done. Now, I may come back with the 5-0, just depends on how I feel about the way it looks, which in my opinion, it looks good now, but I'll still come back with the 5-0. So I'm gonna put on my 5-0, what I created this with, because the general rule is whatever you create something with, you remove it with whatever you created it with. So I'm just gonna use my corners here, and I can hear it cut. I'm just using the right side of that corner to remove anything, and I can hear it cutting, and it's very small. The 5-0 is a 0.2 millimeter in length. Just to give you an idea of the length that it's leaving the hair. So as you see there, that area has been removed. Now I'm going to blend in this 1.5 area through here. This area right here was a 1.5. So now I need to blend this out. So what I'm going to do is what's underneath the 1.5 is a 1/8, which is the equivalent of a 1 guard. And I'm going to go up, and I'm going to use the entire blade on this one. And what you should see is this line lighten. It's not going to remove it, but you should see that line lighten. And that's all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for that line to lighten, to prep myself for when I come back with the 1 blade. And the detachable blades, they're really quick. You can see as I do this, the action happens very fast. It's a really fast action, the way it happens. Now, of course, if you guys weren't here watching this video right now with me, this would be done a lot quicker because I don't have to explain anything. I can easily just go in and do all of this stuff without thinking. Now I have the one blade on, as you can see, and we're going to remove this line that was created by the OA. Now again, the general rule is what you put it in with, you take it out with. So I may have to come back with the OA, but the way my blades are set up, they flow, sorry guys, can't even talk. They flow well into each other. And that's because I zero gapped a lot of my blades. And I adjusted them where they actually flow well into one another. So I shouldn't have this problem with the one. And as you can see, that line is being removed. And again, I'm using a lot of the corners because as you saw with the 1A, I came in guns a-blazing. I was very aggressive with it. That's because the 1A is very forgiving. You got to be careful once you put the one blade on because it's very sharp. It cuts really sharp. All the blades below the 1A cut very sharp, and you need to be very delicate with how you use them. You want to use a lot of the corners. As you can see here with what I'm doing, I'm using a lot of the corners. I'm not using a lot of the entire blade. And that's the thing, when you're fading with the blades, you have to get used to using the corners and using different angles because each length is fixed. There's no adjustment as if you have an adjustable clipper. The length that you put on the detachable blade clipper is the length you're stuck with. One way to change that is using the corners and using different angles. As you see me doing right here, I'm slightly using different angles and I'm slightly using the corners throughout that. So as you see there, that line is now gone. Fade is pretty clean. So now what I'll do is, you want to come back and touch up anything that you see. Now you may have heard that I turned the speed on the clipper all the way down. That's because I wanted to cut really slow because I'm doing detail work. I don't want to be too aggressive here. I don't want to remove too much. So I turned the speed on the clipper all the way down, which is why I love the Anda Supras. I have the original Supra, not the Super ZR2, in case you're wondering, or if you're blind and can't see that the color of this is the older model. So now that that is done, I'm going to put my 1.5 back on and run this through the parietal ridge one more time. I just want to make sure that is nice and smooth through there. I want to make sure all that hair is even. You see, I can hear it cutting a little bit, and that's all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for it to cut a little bit. And I'm going to put my 1A back on and use the corners through part of the parietal ridge, because what happens is not all the time is your client's hair the same length everywhere. The density is the same throughout the entire head. Their head is perfectly round. This doesn't happen. So you have to use your skill and your knowledge to determine if I should go up this high, if I should use this in this area and whatnot. And that's all I'm doing here, guys. So now we're going to do the edge up. Very simple, very conservative. And again, guys, if you have questions for me on this, leave them in the comments below. You know, I'm here to help you guys get better as barbers. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about detachable blades. I've made numerous videos about how to fade with the detachable blades and how to do this and that. So definitely, if you guys have questions, let me know in the comments below. Closed closed mouths do not get fed. So just remember that. I'm here to help you guys out. It's a very conservative edge up. It's not, I'm not trying to give him the sharpest lines possible, guys. Like it's very conservative. I'm just cleaning up a lot of the hairs through here. Just remember, for you younger barbers or just barbers in general, and you know, back me up in the comments, because not every person gets a very strong edge up. Not every person wants the edge up that you see on Instagram. That's not every client. These are real day haircuts right here. What you're seeing right here, this is a real world haircut. This isn't like some of the haircuts that you would see online or anything like that. This is just a nice, solid haircut. That's all this is. What about it? If you guys have questions, let me know in the comments. But that's a fade right there, using the detachable blades only from start to finish. Very in depth. You got to hear me speak on this while I did the haircut. No fancy editing, no cuts. You got to see everything. Hope you guys found this helpful. Hope you guys learned something. And go check out my other videos on understanding detachable blades if you guys need to learn how to know what length is what. Go check out that video in my playlist. It's been your man, I do it, signing out. I'll holler.